again. I am your host. That's right. I am your host of an amazing show. It's Profound Professionals. I am Jessica Koch, and we have been running for the last 8 years now. I have been bringing you industry experts from all over the globe, and they help improve your personal life and grow your business. I have a very special soul here today. I can just tell by his energy and his kindness and the space that he gives as just a short amount of time that I have known him. I have Eric. He is retired 15 years in the aerospace industry. He's also served our country, so we thank you for his service. And he is the founder of SME Consulting, and we're going to learn all things Eric today. So welcome, Eric.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you very much. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to meet you further and to have this discussion. I told you I've watched some of your podcasts before. I've watched some of these, and I was excited. Just not just the energy you bring, but I think the profound professionals you bring on there are also exciting. So.
Yeah, we've had some really interesting people. I have actually had a lot with military backgrounds. Yesterday, I interviewed a female helicopter pilot, past retired Army. So yesterday we had, some of the girl power of the military on our show, and I had to be a little more favor to her. I'm sorry, just because my son's active duty Army, and so we're super proud of him and his service as well. And so you were in the Marines?
Yes, I was in the United States Marine Corps. And by the way, I'm a military brat. So my dad.
Me too. My dad was Navy. What was yours?
He was in the Army.
Oh, so you have an Army appreciation too.
Army appreciation. I love it. I've been to multiple bases and across the country in Germany. So
I was in Germany for 3 years.
Oh yeah,
I was in Bitburg.
Bitburg. I was in Gießen, outside of Frankfurt.
Oh yeah, Frankfurt wasn't too far. Bitburg was not too far from Frankfurt. So yeah. I had one of my first son. I had not the one in the Army, but I had another one of my children in Germany while I was out there. So
that's a great story for him, right? Born in another country.
That's right. So tell us a little bit of your, go ahead and go. Let's go back in time a bit and give us a bit of your journey story that landed you of the founder of a consulting firm. So let's hear a little bit about your story.
Great, thank you. So, the funny thing about life when you hit a certain age is you turn around and you realize that you're probably 3 different life cycles, right? And so for me, started young, went into the United States Marine Corps, loved it, right? And brainwashed the right way, which was excellent. I was in the first Gulf War, which is perfect. And I learned a lot of my leadership skills. Mm-hmm. The start of them kind of came from the Marine Corps. Now, there are ways you don't want to learn, but that's where the start, right? Got into the civilian world, and I found that I had kind of a knack for growing pretty quickly in any of the jobs that I had. And I didn't have many, but it was this discipline that I kind of carried from being a military brat as well as being in the military myself that kind of propelled me. Right? So after that, I was in a small company. I got to operations manager, and then I moved all the way down to Atlanta, Georgia, where I first had a foray into the aerospace industry. Mm-hmm. And upon doing that, I kind of grew into a manager there really quickly within a year and a half. And then another aerospace company, Collins Aerospace. I kind of went all the way up into directorship after a few years and had a great job. I bounced around from Atlanta, Georgia to Wichita, Kansas to Dayton, Ohio, and now down here in Florida. So I think being flexible really works for me, and it works for my leadership style. And I'll share this. I told my wife when we got married, I said, keep a bag packed. She's like, what does that mean? I said, I'm on the go, whatever that means. She goes, where are we going? I said, I don't know, but I want to be ready. She goes, okay. And I'll tell you, Jessica, a few years back during COVID time, we're in a nice big house in Kansas, and we're having breakfast and drinking coffee at an island and looking out the backyard. And she looked at me and she says, when you said that 10 years ago about keep a bag packed, and you never know where we'll be. I said, yeah. She goes, I really thought you were lying. I thought that's just what guys say. I said, and so now she goes, we're here. I said, we're here. So that's who I am. That's where I am. And that's kind of how I got here, right? By being really good at what I think I do and being flexible.
Yeah, I love that. And what I found about myself as I've grown as a business owner and through my own career is I really like systems and organization and structure and, that knowing that things are going to be cared for. And I've designed like even my like getting to know you calls and my podcast have a sense of organization and structure and process. However, there's space for the unexpected and opportunities and the universe to kind of show up and divinely. I've left space for that within structure and organization, which I feel kind of excited about that I was able to do because this is a panel style opportunity interview, and depending on when people choose and schedule themselves, it can be one person, it can be 5 people, and we do the same with our intimate getting to know you call time scheduling blocks, because I just feel like that leaves space for the universe to shower you with some surprise greater than you had imagined.
I do that when I just walk out the house.
Yeah, me too.
So part of my day, part of my week is seeing my wife coming in, and she will say to me, how did the day go? And I said, fine. And she goes, any interesting stories?
Yeah.
And that's my time, Jessica, right? So
yeah.
I'll say, I met a guy at this box store, or while walking, I had a conversation with this guy, and she'll say, you and your mother, you guys never met a stranger. And I said, I never met a stranger.
And I shared this story intimately today, and I don't usually share a lot of stories, but since it's the 2 of us today, I'm going to share one today. I had this experience, and it's one of the things that, after I'm 152 and I finally go home to my maker, because I feel like I'm probably going to live forever, and I like my life so much. I like the planet. I love everything about being alive. But if I were to have a life celebration, this event, this experience is one that I want to be shared in the room, because had someone said to me, you can have $100,000 or you could have this experience, I would take this experience all day long. I'm walking by the boardwalk with my husband. We live near the Patuxent River in the Chesapeake Bay. I'm walking along the boardwalk and on the island, and I'm talking, and we have this great relationship. And, when we walk, I say hi to every couple that goes by, compliment people on their outfits. I engage with people, and then I go right back to the conversation with him. And I'm really on fire and excited. And I'm sharing with him how much I love my business and how much joy I have and how much energy I have. And I said, people really like me, and I think they feel my energy of joy. Well, we had circled and lapped the island more than once. And so we, of course, passed some of the same couples because they're doing the same thing. And this woman stopped with her husband, and she said, yes, I feel your joy. I feel your energy. This is a perfect stranger. She hugs me. She hugs my husband. And my husband's, not necessarily he's a hugger, but, he likes to know you first. And then her husband and him shake hands. Nice to meet you. We both have crazy wives, But she said to me, the first time I passed you, I felt your energy. I felt your joy. And yes, I feel it. And, that's how I want to be remembered. I feel like I have lived a good life if somehow I'm exuding the frequency of joy and love out there, and somebody else is touched by that vibrational wave, then yay me. That's
beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll share. That's what I believe when we talk about a calling, right? It's not. So when we have these kids, right, between 12 and 19 years old, which is a great age, but do you want to be a psychologist? Do you want to be an owner? Do you want to be a marketer? Do you want to be, that sounds great. The older you get, you realize it's more nuanced than that, right? Your calling, or who you are, who you're meant to be, what are you going to do, is a series of additions of things that bring you joy,
Mm-hmm.
And then if you are able, I think, to capture that and turn it into a business, SME Consulting, right? Turn it into something that you love to do. We hear that, right? We hear that if you can do what you love to do, you'll
Never
never
work a day in your life. Yeah,
exactly, you'll never work, right?
We sound like
And so
old
that's for me, it was these various interactions all of my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not just the interactions, but they consistently come. So my wife says to me, my wife says, we have to get you some regular shirts because I was in the military. So some Marines, right? We have some sort of Marine garb every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, we have to get you some regular shirts. And I said, it's because she goes, yes, we can't go anywhere without a conversation striking up with you and some Marine, right? We were at a fancy steakhouse the other day. It's not
There's
too fancy.
nothing
Right?
wrong with that. I
I
think
think
there's
so.
nothing wrong with that.
Marines can be boisterous. Like so,
Yeah.
so the one gentleman, he was a great guy. He's with his family. I'm with my wife. And after the introduction, he would say, like when the waiter came by to bring him water, he would say, "Hey, that Marine over there may want water as well." And so, yes, and so my wife is like smiling, but afterwards she's like, we have to tone that down. So
That makes
I'm
life fun, doesn't she know? Are you watching? I don't know your name out there, but you know that makes life fun. I love it. I think that's great.
exactly right. And she has her time. When we come back home, she gets to relax.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that's a part of, for me, having the consulting business, being able to engage, just being involved in such a way where there's productivity, encouragement, and forward movement, right? Those are the things I think that inspire me when I was, in the aerospace industry as a director of 1,000 people. That same thing that inspires me now as I'm, engaging with clients on how to turn them around.
Well, talk to us in a little more detail of when a client comes to you, what are they trying what puzzles are they trying to solve? What pieces are you helping them put into place? And what kind of industries you're typically working with, size companies? Kind of give us a picture of what that's like.
Perfect. So with SME Consulting, my industry I'm working with now is pretty much still within the aerospace and a little of the automotive industry. So I've worked hard. They're very large, they're very competitive, they're very fast forward movement. So when I run across clients that look for my service, they're typically looking at the leadership or managerial space, right? So in my past, I was that guy that when you have a site, it's not performing well, right? Productivity issues. But some of those productivity issues are based on team dynamics, right? And you kind of can't get around that. They bring me in, and my job is to help bring the team together, find out what it takes, and then turn that around, not just for the productivity sake, but to help grow those managers and those leaders to what future leaders look like, right? Building that pipeline.
Sometimes that process is also making sure that the right team players are doing the right job that makes their heart sing, that's matched to their skills and ability, and matched with the right people, or begin to learn and are educated how to more impactfully communicate with one another based on different personality types and culture and other things. So some of that really makes a huge difference on performance for a team.
So how I led and how I guided clients in Atlanta, Georgia, the principles are the same, but how that come about was different than Wichita, Kansas, right? Culture is completely different. Staunch Midwest, Southeast, very rural, right? And then very urban. So all those components that you mentioned, very, very true. And depending on, when we talk about news, and then there's that speaking style, right? That kind of Atlantic speaking style. But if you go to South Texas, or if you go to LA, or if you go to Utah, the news people have that culture. You can hear that, hear it in their voice. Leadership is very similar. Principles are there, but the leadership is similar. So how I teach those that are in Kansas or in the Midwest to kind of lead their people, they may need to have a little more grace because everyone does have a firearm and they believe, don't tread on me. Great, I respect that. But when you get to more other areas where there's urban, then for those, you may be more inclusive. They want more inclusivity, excuse me, and how that team looks, how that team dynamic is not done just to check a box, but actually to meet the needs of what the team needs to be the most productive.
Well, even also the pace at which you teach and speak are going to be different in those environments, right? Because if you go in and talk at the pace that you're in your more rural areas and you try to translate that over on the East Coast or in a major city like LA, they're gonna say, we have things and you're gonna have to speed it up, or we're gonna get the footnotes because we got places to go and things to do. And if you talk that fast or teach at that accelerated rate in the other areas, then they're gonna go, whoa, buddy, we need to slow down a little here. Because we have to absorb it. We're more of a mosey kind of a people. And
I heard that when I came here, it was, Eric, you're exciting, you're a disciplined leader, you get things done, your results reflect, learn the people. So by the fourth or fifth time, Jessica, I heard learn the people, learn the culture. I then was saying, okay, they're not saying it as a mantra, they're saying it like my style might really need to change. And it took a little bit of time. I walked around, I spoke to 800 of them, 1,000 people that reported to me to get the feel, right? Not just get the feel what they're looking for, but what pain points they have, right? What are they missing in a leadership example? What are they looking for? And then how does that style that I have, how can I tweak it? Because I'm also, as a director, the one to help set the example for the senior managers and the other managers. And I want to get them to be the most successful. So in doing that, I really wanted to learn. So you're exactly right. I've been to 4 different areas with 4 different cultures. The styles were different, but I think that's where growing up as a military person, as well as an Army brat, really helped.
Yeah, I mean, I think that too for me. I mean, every few years we were moving and I just had to readjust. And so I'm like, readjust. That's an easy thing. What's the big deal? You just readjust. But apparently that's not inbred in a lot of other people. They don't have that training, that muscle exercised. And even though it's like riding a bicycle. Once you learn that, even though I've been in the same space for a long time, easily I could readjust anywhere. Throw me and drop me anywhere, and I'm going to thrive because
that's it. I think that's 2 things. That's successful people, successful-minded people, and when we're younger, sometimes we don't know we're going to be successful, but successful-minded people, and 2, it's that global world think, right? So when we live in Germany or live in multiple places, United States, you can't have that one view, right? You would be hamstrung. So those that adopt that there's a world view of who we are and where we are and where we're going, then we become I'm much tolerant to a lot of things. I know me, I know my principles, I know my ethics, I know my morals, I know where I am, but I'm a lot more tolerant with the understanding that there's a ton of people not like me, didn't grow up like me, and I'm really interested to find out what they think.
Yeah, I love that. So you've worked with a lot of big aerospace companies. You've worked with some big people in the automotive space in that industry. I bet you've met some impressive people in your journey. But if there was that pie in the sky business or company that is your dream company to do some work with and get in the door and be able to have the honor of mentoring and supporting their leadership team, would you share with us who it would be?
I would love to consult, and I haven't yet, but I would love to consult for like NASA.
Yeah.
Right? And I know it's government, right? It's big bureaucracy, but I believe a lot of the, we talked about systems. A lot of the systems that they have in place are excellent, right? You cannot get to where we've gotten to without those. But the people that may rotate through there really should have some of the nuanced leadership that not just I bring, but that's needed to then help it flourish, right? A lot of the big box stores, when you have that new leadership comes in, and they say, hey, not what I mean by that. I don't mean so dynamic that we want to change everything, right? Mm-hmm. There are some leaders that want to do that. That's great. I mean, take these principles we have, look at your personality, look at what's needed and the dynamics of that team, and say, I can help them get there. And when you do, then sit back and watch this particular thing just grow and flourish, productivity increase 20, 35%, and then see these people years later look back and go, not just Eric did that, but wow, I didn't know I was stuck, or I didn't know that there was a level of freedom to exhibit. I didn't know I can be my authentic self and still be a really good leader. So I think that's what I would love to do. And I have a couple of contacts, so I might go that way. Jessica, thank you for that note.
Yeah, that inspiration. Funny, interesting story. In another life, when I worked for, I did sales and marketing. I was a speaker, and I spoke at national conferences all over the country. We did Fortune 1000 and government sales, and I actually went and presented to an office near me for NASA. And I remember going through the security pieces. We didn't actually get to start the project, but they really wanted to. But every time we got close to them opening the door, the person who were making the decision got either promoted, moved, transferred, or rearranged, and then we kind of had to start the process all over again. So it was a little bit nuts. But I do have some, definitely hit the procurement fairs near you. So make sure you're Googling procurement fairs near you, because they're free. You can meet people in person for great context for all kinds of government work. And a lot of the consulting work you can do without some of the red tape because of thresholds of pricing. So if you keep your price point in your project under a certain threshold, you're in like Flynn, man. But I remember that I couldn't even bring a pen. Like, I didn't have my cell phone. I thought I like stripped myself down there, and they're like, where were you think you're going with this, young lady? I'm like, it was a pen. It takes some minutes. They wouldn't let it come in. So I was like, okay, I'm sorry.
We guess that's good, right? We guess that's
exactly right. That's exactly.
We want that in that environment. I get it, but
yeah, because what Get Smart with the telephone in his shoe, or like Inspector Gadget with the bomb in his pen, or whatever. Like all of the James Bond and all his trinkets. Right. I guess.
And today, all you have to go to like Temu or someplace, and you can actually get those things. So
yeah.
So I guess
that.
Right. So I guess we're there now.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I just felt like I remembered that. And I had to. I went to a couple of high security places, and way back in the day where, I had to turn and face a camera and smile, and they took a photograph of me on the spot. And that's like, sounds like, yeah, whatever, that's no big deal now. But back then it was like, this was a big deal. Okay. It was just, it was like just shy of scanning my eyeball and taking my fingerprint, to get in. So,
I would love that, by the way. I'm still.
You're all about your retina scan.
Yeah. I would do it. I would do it tomorrow. I would go there.
I don't want my eyeball to be able to open anything, because I don't want anyone else to want them as much as I want them. I'm good. I've watched a lot of movies with my husband.
We watch the movies. Exactly right.
So can you give everyone out there watching today a tip that can help them with their team collaboration, their communication, their internal culture? What do you offer them out there for some great advice today?
Yeah, thank you. There's a couple of pieces that I use. It's part of who I am. It's part of what I teach, and not just what I teach. I exude it, right? So growing up, I'm the older child of 4, and I've always believed in being the example. Right? So, when my younger brothers are scared, if I show a measure of strength, then sure enough, they hold their chest out because they can do it, right? As I had my children and they grow up, and they would say, Dad, this. And I would say, listen, I had crackers and peanut butter. You can do it. And they would say, okay, I can do it, right? And as I became a leader, the same thing. So if one really good thing I can share first, it is model the example that you want to see. I think that's so important as a leader, and so important as a person, right? If you're hot-headed and no patience, you can't get upset when people around you model that same behavior. But yet, if you're stoic, if you understand where you're going, and if you try your best, then before you know it, your environment will be that what you're looking for. And so I think that's very important as a leader to do, right? If I want to see that, model that as much as time. And the next would be, bring, this is a phrase. It took me a while to kind of get it, and I've made it mine. But it's bringing your authentic self, right?
Mm-hmm.
The way I utilize that, bring your authentic self, is that as I've grown, Jessica, I've become as vulnerable as I need to bring my team together. Okay, so we talked about being 10 years in the United States Marine Corps. You won't find vulnerability in the United States Marine Corps. Right? That's not how it works. And so,
oh, come on. I think that's the biggest bunch of softies out there. They all have the biggest hearts. They're out there collecting toys for tots.
Yes,
come
we do
on
that.
Now they got a heart of gold.
We rescue. We're heroes behind the cap. Exactly right. The level of vulnerability of who we are is something that's rather closed in. And then I realized as a leader, though, if you want to build that team, and I'm specifically talking about managers and leaders, right? You can be authentic to your team, which is great. But if you want to model that for other managers, that you're building that pipeline of what it takes to be a successful leader, having that level of authenticity, bringing your true self, let them see that. I carried myself a certain way to this team. I grew them. I built them. They were the model that other sites were using for a leadership team. I loved it. And then I had an incident, right? I wasn't feeling so well. And I was out for a few weeks. Came back. Eric is back. And then I felt compelled to bring my true self to them. And so I called them to my office and I said, guys, this is what happened. Told them. And now Eric, who sometimes seems to be the Terminator, is vulnerable, right? He's like everyone else. And it's not like I was fake before, but I just came across as a certain leader I wanted to model. Remember I said that? After that vulnerability conversation, they came to me individually and said, Eric, I would say something and they would say, we have it. And I said, are you talking to me because I was sick? And they go, no, we're talking to you because we understand you. We want to be a part of what you're doing. And we don't want to hinder that. And so when I said, okay, fine. But that was I had an epiphany, right? That being my true self, being a little vulnerable can help bring this team past places that I couldn't do alone. So I think that's a great tip, right? Model what you think works, model what matters. That's how I say it. And bring your authentic self and your team will love it.
Yeah. And then I think the next step to that is genuinely and authentically caring about what matters to the team and helping pull them into the mission and the vision and making it very personal for them, having them own it and identify to it and have some real ownership of the vision, the mission, what you're achieving that's much bigger than you, them, or the company even. And sometimes even bigger than the work that you're doing for the client, because it can extend out past that into the community and into the globe, right? I really, I love what you were talking about as far as like with your brothers and your children. I'm a big believer that everything is energy, everything is made of energy, and all of it's connected, and when I work hard on achieving and doing things to make me the best version of me, even if I had never met you, I have helped by ripple effect the energy of Eric to be a better as a collective, right? As a unit. And I think, Marines understand that unit mission, vision kind of a speak. So, but yeah, I think that, that we inspire others to then strive in that energy and in that frequency to be the best version of themselves, especially when you're modeling it, just like your tip, right? Exactly. Be that model.
I saw, as I mentioned before, and for you guys, I watch your podcast. I've watched numerous of these. I like the cadence. I like the way it's going. And you had one where you said about, or the guest was talking about the number of people that you particularly may come in contact with that benefits, and there's maybe 7,000 people that you don't know, And I'll share this quick story. I was GM of a site doing business. I got a phone call, internal, and the person says, "Hey, I'm a manager over in this other state." I said, "Okay, great, same company." And he says, "Listen, I have an employee. I mentor him. I'm bringing him where he needs to be. I'm trying my best, and I think I've hit a wall. I've given all that I have, and I don't know what much more I can give him." And he says, "And I have a mentor." And I said this to my mentor, and I said, "Hey, I have this guy," and so on and so forth. Repeated the story. He says, "And my mentor," now, by the way, I don't know this manager. He says, "And my mentor said, hey, I know a guy. His name is Eric Ebron. He might be in the Midwest right now, but look him up. I think he's great. He'll be exactly what your guy needs." He goes, "And so I called you, and I said, man, give me a little background." I said, "Yeah, I would love to do that. I'm passionate about, again, leadership, growth, building the pipeline, encouraging leaders to be their best self." Right. And he says, "Okay, great." And so when it was over, I said, "Hey, by the way, who's your mentor? Right? Who's the guy?" And he says, "Oh, it's this guy, Stan K, by the way." And I go, "Stan? I haven't seen Stan in like 4 years. And when I did, I only saw him like 4 times. He's come to my site where I was a GM. He didn't work with me. He didn't work for me. It just," that is what happens, right? When you bring your true self, you bring your energy, like you talked about. Sometimes, and by the way, I'll share this. I don't like the term infectious, right? COVID, right? I like to call it magnet, right? Magnet energy, right? So magnet leaders attract certain things, right? And repel other items. And so here it is, years later, guy calls me out of the blue to help mentor one of his people. So his mentor trusted me enough to help the business grow in that fashion. And so I take that as, wow, I'm not just doing something right, but I'm on the path, right? And as I mentioned before, the path to who I am. Love reading the books, love, growth and education, but I'm on the path to who I am when these events come up, Jessica.
Well, and I'm with you. Let's throw infectious out. And magnetism is good. That's part of the step. That's one part of the process to draw people to you. But what you're really doing once you've drawn them to you is you're amplifying them. You're helping them amplify their best self. So if they can amplify out into the world in a way that is their, then that's when you've really done something big.
Love it. Love it. Thank you very much. I'm going to take that.
We're gonna write that down.
Yeah, I'm going to take it, and you might see it in the 8th chapter of my book. That's like
Jessica, God, that's right. Give me the quotes. Exactly, I'm all right. On board. I'm all on board.
I do that.
So speaking of amplifying good, if you're watching out there, and I know you are, and I'm so glad for it. We're so grateful for the audience because we are really just 2 people having a conversation without you. So we'd love for you to put some stuff in the comments and give us any tips and advice you have that have worked for your organizations and leadership. And now we're going to get to the good stuff, people. We're going to get to the good part. You have a chance to be a hero. We've got a Marine on board here. We've already got a hero in our presence. You could be one too. Hit that share button and let's inspire some people out there to do something good. Put the cause that's close to your heart in the comments. Let's inspire people to give time, treasure, or talent and be inspired by the causes that are close to your heart. And we're going to hear from Eric. Tell us about a cause that you love.
Thank you. A cause that's dear to my heart is the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. So my mother is a twin. Her name is Martha, and her sister twin is named Mary, right? Mary Martha. And my Aunt Mary has cerebral palsy. And so I grew up with this illness, but I've seen its various iterations throughout. And so as a young child, I was so protective of my aunt that she couldn't go outside without me being by her side. Of course, my grandmother didn't like her going outside, being on her own. She's grown, didn't like it. Don't worry about it. Her nephew is there. I went to her doctor's appointments. I went to every place else. And I got so close to the people and the love and the smiles that, when I got 18 years old, out of my check, I always put money to the Cerebral Palsy Foundation.
That's
And
right.
and I think what they do, a couple of facts about that is, they 1 in 345 children have cerebral palsy. 1 in 10 has a severe vision impairment. 1 in 3 can't talk. And then the reason why I mention that is later I got remarried, and my new son, has cerebral palsy. And for him, it's a mild form, right? So for him, his legs, right, doesn't work as well. My Aunt Mary, it's everything, right? It's speech and whatnot. And so I found that which I was giving and that which was passionate to me has been with me my whole life. And I think that is the foundation that I want people to get behind. It is near and dear. We see everyone, their smiles are great, infectious or magnetic. And I think they're making strides even in the commercial market, right? So there is a commercial product out there to help translate cerebral palsy speech. So look it up.
Okay, that's exciting.
And you train it, and it helps turn it around what you're trying to say to how you say it to what it's beautiful. And I think that's an opportunity.
AI at its best, yes.
Exactly. Business at its best. Capitalism.
Yes, that is awesome. I love it. Oh my gosh, to give a voice to people who feel trapped without a voice. Is there anything more beautiful? Whip out your checkbooks, people. This is something to get behind. I mean, time, treasure, talent, share some awareness. Some million out there is watching this show, and they're going to do something big so that all the people who need that device could have it. Oh, I want everyone to be able to speak the joys of their heart to the ones that they love. Oh, that's so good. So good. Okay, now you're watching. You know what's next. Start typing. Put the books that you love in the comments, because I am crazy about books in the best way possible. We are creating an ultimate book list, and by the end of this year, we are on track in our mark, yay us, to have 1,000 industry experts share with us their love, their authentic selves, their energy, their knowledge, their tips, causes they love, and books they love. And we're going to create an ultimate book list, and I'm super excited about that when we have our celebration. So, a book that inspired your personal life or helped you grow your business.
Book that inspired me, and again, it's a part of that naturalness. It's The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, right? Patrick Lencioni. Great book. Meaning, for me, as I was reading it, right, and reading the story and how he wrote it out in that format, it called to me of the various teams that I've managed throughout my life, from the military all the way through. I've seen that. So as I'm looking at it and reading it and coming across, those that don't like trust, and those that have a fear of conflict, and those that have the lack of commitments, I was putting names to this, right? It was Sergeant Jones from 20 years ago, right? It was Donald 4 years ago in Kansas. It was, and as I was reading it, I see that as a manager, as a leader, not just we run across this, but these are things we have to tackle. And
our job.
Leaders are able to tackle that. So, if you've ever been in a situation as a team member and you see it, right? You see the dysfunction because it's around you. You also see the lack of a good leader's ability to handle that. So again, reading this book, it's a great book for me. I think it's a great book for others to read who want to understand that if you have a great team, you really need to understand why. And likewise, as you grow throughout any industry, you're going to run across some of these dysfunctions. And so reading about them, hearing about them is a way to overcome it.
I'm a big believer that there isn't any bad teams, just the leaders that need to improve. Because I remember being, so I'm going to little brag on me. I'm good at that. I was National Honor Society, straight A student, and not just the A. I wanted to be the top A. Like, I was always pushing myself. And I had a teacher that, I had to get I got a tutor because I was getting a B, and I needed to have an A. That wasn't acceptable. So I got myself a tutor and needed an A. And I kept going back in to try to get help from this teacher. And they're like, well, you're just not doing the work, or I said, you know what? I am an excellent student. I said, I need you to be an excellent teacher and help me learn this the way that I learn, because I'm trying everything here. Be a part of the goal, be a part of the plan. I needed this teacher to step up.
You know that I was just talking to my daughter, one of my daughters, about an hour ago, and I said, "Listen, I'm the kind of person that I need a strong leader. Now, granted, came out of the military, but I need a strong leader. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to usurp authority, right? I'm not going to push them out of the way, but I will push against the envelope to say, listen, I need direction. I need a vision. What are we doing? What's the goal? How are we getting there? Are we measuring where we need to be? Yeah. Tell me, engage with me, so I'm there. And when I don't have those type of leaders, I have those conversations with those leaders, right? At our one-on-ones, it's mainly me talking to them, going, so why aren't you? So how can I get you? And I've gotten a couple of my leaders to step up or to step aside. Let's put it that way, right? Just like you were saying, you need that kind of teacher. I need that kind of leader. And so I agree with you. To make better leaders, they need to understand how to address this. Or if they're hamstrung and they only know how to lead one way, you definitely got to get out of this market, right? Go and find you a market, find you the 2 or 3 people that you can only lead, and then be happy. But you can't do it here. So you're exactly right. I think understanding that for a leader, they have a lot of responsibility. Many don't know that, right? Sometimes they're thrust in that position, and that's where, again, from the consulting space, my job is to say, hey, listen, there's more responsibility than you think. Let's get you there, right? Or let's get you out of here.
Well, and it's fascinating because it's all forms of leadership. So I was a young teenager and identified I needed a teacher that needed to step up, right? That was pretty young for me to identify. But I have a daughter who's even more brilliant than me. So one of my children, and she's in her 20s now, but I just didn't read until I had her take like a personality test. I didn't read her communication level. And once I had her go through that process, it was that moment in Avatar where like, oh my God, I see you, I hear you for the first time ever. And it was this aha moment. But I do remember her being, and this is a true story, 2 years old, hand on her hip, stomping her foot, saying to me, you cannot parent me like the other kids. And this came out of this little kid's mouth. And I was like, Lord help me, but I was doing the best I could. I was outnumbered and I was a very young mom. So coming up with more than one parenting style was really not on the menu. But I'll never forget that. And then now as she's a young lady, we have such a better relationship and communication. And I'm so proud of all the things she's done. But, it is, you have all these, I had 6, okay. I had all these little humans with all these different personalities. It was a small herd that I had to figure out.
That is, so I wouldn't say I just learned it. I had a conversation with a young leader some while ago, and she didn't report to me, but she was new to the team, and I wanted to give her all the insights to grow and prosper. And so I spent 10 minutes. I'm going this and this, and this is this is going to be perfect. Take this.
It was all going like this, right?
and what I didn't recognize, and this was great. She says to me, here's the moment. She says to me, am I in trouble? And I said, no, what do you mean? And she goes, I'm sorry. I'm not good with indirect communication. I can't pick up some of the nuances of that. And so I was like, and truly, I said, give me a moment. And I spun around in my chair. I get overly dramatic sometimes as a leader. I spun around. We're in my office. It's the 2 of us, Jessica. I spun around in my chair. And I kind of just I had to process this, right? And I come back and I said, thank you for sharing. I said, thank you for the transparency. And I said, my style is not always as direct. Coming from the Marine Corps, that doesn't translate well in the civilian world, right? So so a lot of things I retrained myself to be able to work best in a civilian context. It's all direct in the Marine Corps, right? So then I said, okay. And I adjusted. I said, here's how you succeed. bam, bam, bam. Here's what you stay away from. Bam, bam. She goes, and her eyes lit up. She goes, thank you. Can I come back next week for another? I said, yes, you can. She walked away and I was like, wow, okay. so some of our children, like we talked about,
That's
I
right.
have a
The
couple of
student
children
showed up
that
to teach the master.
yeah, I have a couple that I talk soft and I go, no, and I guide them the right way. And it's nuanced speech and they know what I'm talking about. And there's a couple that I just have to, the Marine has to come out and not just they need it, they want it. They want a level of discipline that I have to succeed. And so, yeah, you have to do that as a parent and you have to do that as a good leader.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the books you've written, Eric, or have in the works, or what's going on in the world of the author, Eric. Let's see the side of Eric.
So I have a passion book that I have out, and it's called "It Is Just 2 Cents." And how that came about was many people in your life want to give you advice, right? And so this book is how to take and throw away advice. Now I have a companion book that there's a companion book that I'll be going to how to give good advice, but I wanted to start this way: how to take and throw away advice. And so it runs across the neighbor that always says, you know what I would do if I were you, right? It runs across
the Italian that gives unsolicited advice all the time. That's me. The Italian mother who says, you need to do.
Well, I like how you happen to bring out a particular nationality, but I do have a chapter in here where I said it's the Russian speaker correcting Chinese grammar, and that's the name of the and it's not like you can't have a Russian, but the motif behind it is, your background is something. Your background is, and this is what you're completely used to. And just because you learn something else doesn't mean you identify with that, right? And so you might not be remotely qualified to give the level of advice that you are, right? So the book encompasses multiple levels or multiple people that you're going to encounter. The busybody syndrome, right? The people that are just nosy, right? But they couch it in a way of just giving advice. You know what I would do, and it's really weak advice, but they want to know more of you, right? They want to know more of the dirt. So that's that. But that's my passion. I love it. It's the way I try to guide my kids to be not as judgmental, right? Don't stand there and tell everybody what they need to do with advice. Sit back and listen. But for business, I have a business book that's coming out this July. It's going to be called The Leadership Compass. And that goes over the 8 methodologies that I kind of have to not just be a good leader, but to consult good leaders, right? So that's where we're going on this. It's going on modeling, right? Modeling what matters. It talks about taking the win and lose the losses. So many of us don't take time to look back on what we've accomplished and you realize that you are up on the rung of the ladder that you're supposed to be on. And so we always wish we were on another one. And that's when we focus too much on the things that are not good. I had a leader come to me. She's great, by the way. And she would sit down and she would say, hey, Eric, great. What can I do better? What are my weaknesses? I need to work on. And I would say, look here, you're great. Let's talk about how to improve some of your strengths. She says, what do you mean? I said, with just 10 to 15% more on your strengths, you can go so much further than spending 50% on reducing your weaknesses. I said, some of your weaknesses are genetic. Like you'll never get rid of it. Some of it's hereditary, some of it's learned behavior, some of it is from trauma, right? You have enough trauma that's where that weakness came from. And you can spend a measure of time for that. But to grow in business, to be what your team needs, work and excel on those strengths. Take the wins, lose the losses. So that book is coming out.
Delegate and outsource the things you're not that strong in and focus on the things you are. I love that.
Spell check, right?
That's right. That's right. Oh yeah, for sure for me. For sure for me. So if you're watching and you're an author and you've written a book, please put your books in the comments if you have one you suggest, especially on the topic of leadership. We'd love to see it and hear about it. And if you're thinking, wait, I'm an industry expert, I should be on this show. well, reach out. We'll get our team to give you the process so that you can get yourself registered and we can feature you as well. So before we say goodbye, we are going to get Eric to give us a final piece of information or inspiration. This has just been a lot of fun, Eric. I hope you've had a good time too.
I had a great time, Jessica. I ran across a young guy that I now consult, and he was of a certain age, young 30s. And for him, he felt time passed him by already. And I looked at him and I said, it's just starting. He said, what do you mean? I said, your teens, you're just supposed to get through. Your 20s, you're supposed to try these things that are inevitably going to fail. But you learn these good lessons. You measure yourself by your peers. You see where you're going. By the time you hit your 30s, you're just hitting just what you need to do to not mess up. And so I think if I can leave everyone with something, it would be you're right. You're at the right time to do exactly what you want to do. Right. So here I am. I'm in my third life with this consulting company, and I feel so excited to do this. I feel so excited when I meet my clients and customers. And again, I tell these stories because these stories, there's experience behind them. There's 35 years of experience behind every story. And when I'm sitting with a customer, they go, this guy gets it, right? I may not have gotten it at 22 or 25 or 30 or 40 or dare I say 50, but now I get it. So you're at the right time. This is when you're supposed to do that, right? Your passion book, start writing it. Why not? Someone's going to read it, even if it's right. Your passion project, do it now. Save up for that 1965 Mustang that you always wanted to get, right? What else? What else are you going to do? This is the time, I think, to move forward. If you want to be a great leader, you want to be a great passionate person, this is the time. Find someone. We're all here. We can get you there.
That's right. We're all here. We're all connected. And we will all see you on the next Profound Professionals. As always, everyone, I'm your host, Jessica Koch. And be kind to yourself out there and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody.